Forget that. Leona in Spanish means lioness. She looked after her ever-growing pride. She was strong and she rarely complained about her predicament these past few months. In Spanish, she was esposa, the wife, madre, mother, abuela, grandmother, y amiga, friend, amiga para siempre. And on behalf of Leona's family, her husband Alan of 63 years, and their children Deborah, Tracy and James, I'd like to welcome you to this service. The family would like to thank each of you for coming and also for the kind messages that they've received these past few days. My name's Adrian, I'm the chaplain at the English-speaking church here in Ibiza and Formentera, and it's my privilege to be able to lead this time together. A time when we celebrate the life of someone who for each of us was a special person. It's also a time for saying goodbye and a time to receive support and comfort. And so to begin our time together, Tracy has written a poem and she'd like to recite that now to you.
Okay, so these were some things I was thinking when I was at the hospital with Mum. And it's a poem I've written, probably called Your Hands. So your hands held me at birth. They comforted me. They put spoon to my mouth and bathed me. They created summer dresses, knitted cardigans galore, tied my laces and picked me up from the floor. They peeled potatoes for Sunday roasts, stirred the gravy which Dad loved the most. They wrote birthday cards with love, filled with love, and wrapped Christmas presents as we slept above. They added your makeup, just a simple touch. For a beautiful face, it doesn't need much. They made lampshades on Saturdays while we watched the telly. Cheese rolls were made to fill the belly. They steered us both to Hounslow on many a day. We sang Madness along the way. We sang to Madness along the way. They carried my shopping all around town. We'd stop for a coffee, a chat and sit down. Vases of flowers were expertly arranged. Now my sunflowers will not be the same. Masterpieces created from silks and cotton. Your creative skills will not be forgotten. So today, as I see your hands battered and bruised, purple hands from cannulas used, your fingers are linked in between mine. I feel your tight squeeze as you leave us behind. Oh, how I wish you could still be here to help me wipe away all of my tears. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Leona lived a full and active life. She loved Alan. She enjoyed her children. She welcomed their partners. And she delighted with their 7 grandchildren, Ben, Ian, Leah, Lydia, Raina, Aidan and Aisling. And she also went on to welcome their partners. She was thrilled when her 6 great-grandchildren arrived. Skye, Layla, Caleb, Jasmine, Roman and Jack. She was a fantastic auntie to her nieces and nephews who would often come to confide in her. Each person was like a piece of patchwork that Leona stitched into the fabric of her family, making sure that they were all bonded together. All of them loved her very much, and she loved them. Her life had 4 distinct phases. From 0 to 19, she was growing up. From 19 to 40, she was a wife, a mother and housewife. From 40 to 63, she got her driving license and she found a job. And then for the last 20 years, she's been retired here on the island of Ibiza. Leona was born in 1939 in Perivale, London, to Welsh parents, Gethin and Selina Young. She's not a bit Welsh or half Welsh. She is Welsh. And during the war, she and her brother David were evacuated to Barry Island in South Wales, making her even more Welsh. She and David spent many summer holidays with family in Wales. She met Alan Douglas as a teenager. She was working in Bush Radio in Regent Street, London at the time. They fell in love and they decided to marry in 1958. Poor Alan developed TB and was in hospital for a few months. He actually had to get a doctor's letter to have a day pass out to attend his own wedding. The doctors told him that he wouldn't live beyond 40. Leona could never have imagined that she would have 63 years with Alan. Nor could she have imagined the beautiful family they created and the double act that they became, who talked to everyone and made friends wherever they went. We're now going to listen to our second piece of music that would have been played at their wedding reception 63 years ago, except it wasn't released until 1979. It's called September Morn by Neil Diamond. And maybe as this plays, just use this time to reflect on your memories of Leona and what she meant to you. So after their wedding, family life began. Deborah was born in 1959, Tracy in 1961 and James in 1964. The family lived in a detached bungalow, a prefab, in Rectory Park, Northolt, and later at 9 Larch Crescent in Hayes. Alan worked up and down the country as a shop fitter and carpenter, and Leona and Alan made sure that they had a proper family holiday together. Their first venture abroad was Calamasquita, a continental destination. They were smitten with foreign holidays, which would influence their retirement plans in years to come. Leona and Alan were kind and hospitable people. Leona took care of her mother Selina and Alan's mum Sadie when they got old and needed to be hospitalised. She welcomed her friend Pat and her 2 children, Ian and Derek, into their home for a short while 50 years ago. Pat and Leona are amigas para siempre. She had many jobs in her life, and whatever she did, she put her whole heart and soul into it. Tracy's poem told of the family effort of making lampshades and to clear the bath of raffia before bath night on a Sunday. Her driving licence got her out and about, training all sorts of people to create lampshades. She was so much loved at Associated Heat Treatment that they wouldn't let her leave when they moved from Hayes to Chessington, and she would drive there every day to help them out. Her children went on to marry and have children of their own, but family was very important to Leona and Alan. Alan was always the photographer and videographer at family and other events. The 116 DVDs and 160 photograph albums pay testament to the many happy times of family holidays and family birthdays. Alan's sister Babs lived in Ibiza and with her daughter Carol, Carol's husband Eli, and their son George. And so Leona and Alan would visit the island many times. However, it was nonetheless a shock to the children when Alan and Leona were going to sell up and retire to Ibiza in 2002. They bought a villa between Ibiza town and Santa Eulalia, and they lived the high life there, dipping in their own pool, visiting local restaurants and hosting family visits. When Leona and Alan were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary in 2009, the family had organised an event in England. They hadn't been able to make it here for the little party that had been organised for friends. But Deborah, Tracy and James were astonished to see the video of that little party where at least 80 people had attended, and only 3 of them had they known before they arrived on the island. At that very moment, they all realised that retiring to Ibiza was the best decision they'd ever made. Leona and Alan went everywhere together. They joined the Ibiza Walkers and Wobblers Club. They helped fundraising for cancer charities on the island, and they even did aqua aerobics together. But Leona had her own interests and friends. It was Leona who tried her best to learn Spanish. She joined a sewing group. She was a talented sewer. She made lots of clothes for children. There are lots of beautiful tapestries and table decorations at home. She even contributed to the tapestry on the display in the reception of Cammises Hospital. The sewing group met every Thursday afternoon, and at the slightest excuse it turned into a cake and cava club. She loved the friendship and companionship of her fellow sewers, particularly during these last 6 months. Alan's photography skills were needed when Leona and her friends decided to do a calendar girls photo shoot in aid of Ibiza and Formentera contra el Cancer. Everyone bought a calendar that year. Grandsons Ben and Ian have never been the same since they found that Miss March was their nan. In the all together and with a strategically positioned cross stitch just covering her modesty. They must have tried all the local restaurants in their 20 years here. They sought out the Menu del Dia everywhere. They had a couple of favourites. The wild asparagus run by Mattia Miguel holds many happy memories of evenings with friends. The SOS in Calalonga run by Ramon, Cathy and Jasmine has been the venue for many family events down the years. Leona was sadly diagnosed with cancer last summer. In January this year, the doctors confirmed that the cancer was inoperable and that she only had a few months to live. Her children decided to commit to one of them being in Ibiza to look after Leona and Alan for as long as it took. Deborah, Alex, Aidan, Aisling and Lauren, Tracy, David, Ben, Leah and Edward, James, Kay, Lydia and Rana, Linda and Beverly all played their part in looking after them in difficult times. Others made sure that they phoned to convey their love for Leona. The sewers rallied round and supported Leona to attend on a Thursday as often as she was able. Arthur and Barbara got into the routine of visiting them on a Friday night to watch Emmerdale, to drink wine and to chat with them for hours. The family is convinced that this outpouring of love for Leona and Alan extended her life as well as enriching theirs. It was a privilege to support in whatever way they could. Alas, the inevitable happened and Leona passed away on the 30th of June in Cammises Hospital after having been there for about a week.